DJ Uzi, DJ Uzi. DJ Uzi, DJ Uzi.
Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. I am Ayana. For anybody who's new, to any of my returning subscribers, hello, or returning viewers, welcome back. I am coming to you with a video about my personal statement and my diversity statement. I know I have seen a couple comments on my past videos just about, well, what did you do for, what was your process for a personal statement, and what was your process for a diversity statement? And I'm just gonna come to you today with what worked for me. I should put a disclaimer. Anything I say in this is not the recipe to, oh, if I do this same exact thing, then it's going to get me this exact same result. This is simply just what I did for my video. For my application this cycle around. And I also should mention I did receive a bunch of help with revisions and editing, getting down to the nitty-gritty of how I got my final product. So I guess we can get started with first my personal statement and how I structured that. When I first went into doing my personal statement, I was unsure of where I wanted to start. I felt like, okay, you don't have a prompt. Some schools do have a prompt, but basically you're working from just whatever you want to write about and what do you want to tell admissions about yourself. And this time around, I decided to do the method of starting with a story down to my personal experiences up until now and how that has applied my skill set my mindset as far as to why I still wanted to go to law school. I tried to pinpoint like a time of when I had, because of the fact that I'm not sure what I would like to do with my law degree yet, but I do have an interest in public interest. I have said that in a previous video. You'll probably see it up here, a link to it if you want to see why do I want to go to law school. But my focus and thought process for the personal statement was a public service, public interest career, because of the fact that like just things that have been happening over the years, along with my own not personal, but more so people around me experiences with law enforcement, or just looking at the law and just seeing how unjust it has been in a sense of like in criminal law. And so when I first was thinking about law school, that is where I got my mindset from. Just that previous thing of, okay, this is what I possibly would like to do. But the first thing I did was I started off with a story, and I talked about an experience I had with my father being pulled over by the cops and being arrested, and just like how that was a very traumatic experience for me, and just like my real first interaction with law enforcement, and how that gave me kind of the spark of like, well, how are the police officers able to do this and to stop you because you look suspicious, or how can you determine what looks suspicious? But that's like rambling on to something else. But yeah, more so these are the questions that were going through my mind. I knew that being a lawyer was like such a like typical thing that your parents try to push you to go towards, but I was just like, okay, maybe I'll be a lawyer. And the thing is, the difference with my story is I wanted to do a lot of things. At a point, I'm not like one of them students like, oh my God, since I was a little girl, I wanted to be a lawyer. No, I feel like I started thinking about being a lawyer again kind of towards high school. I had did moot court, and I found it like really interesting, along with some other phases of things that I wanted to do. But I essentially came to the thought of, oh, I want to go to law school after I graduate college. And so I think, I'm trying to think, yeah, that moot court really was an inspiration as well. Just like, ooh, I could see myself doing something like this. So you see how that kind of was going towards like actually being a litigator, or, well, a litigator, and not specifically in the criminal law, but we were handling cases with students trying to figure out disciplinary action against them that was like deterring from them being suspended and stuff. But yeah, so this is like the experience that all contributed to, okay, when I got in college, this is what I want to do as of right now. And so I didn't talk about my high school stuff in my personal statement, let me just note that. But I just wanted to give a background of some of the things that I was thinking about when I was writing my personal statement. But I started off with a story, and if you're looking to, if you want to do the structure of start a story and contribute into parts of, oh, how does this relate to me? Pick a time where you did realize that you wanted to go to law school. What was that moment? What did it feel like? Was it like a aha moment? Were you one of them people who did know from a younger age that, oh, maybe I wanted to go to law school? Have you watched a TV show like How to Get Away with Murder, or Law and Order, a big one, SUV, or even Suits, and what other shows do they have? Any type of show that you watched, or any experiences personal that you had that was like, yeah, this is this moment. I would encourage you, if you would like to take this route, to talk about that time, talk about that experience, engage your reader, which is admissions, to be like, I want to know more about this girl's story and what she got to tell us. Like, okay, this is what she wanted to start with, and this is what has pushed her. Okay, now we get us a picture of what you're talking about. Now let's find out more. They're more interested and engaged. You got to realize admissions read thousands and thousands of applications, and obviously I think I had a lot of back and forth of trying to just have this extraordinary essay, because, well, what's going to make mine different? Yours is different already because it's your personal story. So definitely choosing a story that is close to you or that works for you, whereas though it was your like aha moment. Then after my story, I continued on talking about my experience in college. In college, I took a woman in justice class, and it kind of opened me up more to just women in the criminal justice system and their roles that they play in it. I learned a lot about sexual assault, domestic violence, and just like, well, what can you do to help people in this field with law? And I feel like a lot of the times you do have this narrow vision of what law is either criminal law or it's corporate law. But as many of you will come to know just through research, or once you get to law school, there's so much that you can do with your law degree and being an attorney in the law field. So just experiencing these classes of women in justice, my sexual assault class, and just seeing that, oh, well, I can help people who have been in very abusive situations. Me having personal experiencing, viewing these type of relationships, that was something that was like of interest to me as well. I was like, wow, I can help people in this way, and not just like, oh, you commit a crime, then you go to jail, even though I was definitely looking at the public defender trying to defend them so that they wouldn't go to jail. I then went on to explain how my thesis had an impact of just like these different impacts of like me thinking like changing, oh, I want to do this for a lawyer, or I want to do that. But my thesis, I did it on prison rape in male prisons, and how the system perpetuated sexual assault amongst inmates, and just learning so much about that, like what was going on in prison and how it's like just so normalized, it really gave me a different perspective of, oh, maybe I want to represent inmates and just like those who are being mistreated by the system, because you know the system always tells you like, oh, once you commit a crime then you have no more rights, or your life is kind of not like worth it anymore. So just learning about that really influenced me as well. Like maybe I want to go to prison reform, because everybody in prison is not guilty. And even though many people may think so, but no, that's why they had things like the Innocence Project. I learned about that in like a sociology class, I believe, one of those classes. But as you can see, I just had different experiences that kept me interested in like, okay, I can see that I can make real effective change. Now, a little bit different between me and probably a student who is just coming out of college. I actually have been out of college for 3 years now. Wow, can't believe it. 2020 seems just like yesterday. But I've been out of college for 3 years, and I went into insurance working as a claims analyst. And I feel like just within like different systems, you can see so much injustice, like, and learning about like trust and estates and just all this technical stuff, how to review a divorce document, power of attorney documents, contracts. Like this is what I was getting viewership of. When you think of insurance, you probably thinking like, how is that gonna relate to law at all? Like, that's not a law firm. This is literally the things that I was thinking for myself, and probably you're probably thinking like, well, what could you do with that experience, you know? But you really, it's all about marketing and selling your experience and your knowledge and how you can apply that to once you do go to law school. What perspectives are you going to what perspectives are you going to provide? What are you going to learn from your classmates? You got to think admissions is trying to build a class of diverse people who have diverse experiences, and what are you going to bring to it? And so I think it was cool that I did have a couple gap years, and just how my perspective is different and how I have grown me to be able to go into a career that I could have kept and to still choose to go to law school. That's the big thing about gap years. I do have a video about that as well, so that will be up too. But just that experience being out of school was really helpful towards just writing my paper. Those were like my big things that I've done in order to draft a personal statement. Obviously, like I said, many people, not many, because like I said before, well, I don't know if I said this in a previous video, but a word of advice is to make sure that you do have not a lot of people reading your personal statement, not just because like it's your personal own, but once you have a bunch of different opinions looking at your paper, you are getting pulled each way, and you're trying to make a paper at that point to satisfy other people and what they would do if they were writing an essay, and it puts like 10 times as much of pressure on it. And I realized that very quickly when I did start the drafting process. Just I had all these people putting their input on it, and just like, no, change this, change that, well, maybe you should say it this way. And I just tried to stay away from that thing of like doing it in other people's view. I need to do it in my own view. So definitely get like 1 or 2 people who you trust, who know you, to read your essay and to give you true feedback, because you want people who want to see you win. And that's like the most important part of it, literally. So that was just like my big thing with writing my personal statement. I don't know if I'm gonna cut this out, but I was also thinking about reading my personal statement up here so you could hear an example of what it sounded like, or what story did I use. And if I do keep this, then hello you guys. Well, you made it this far. I will put it at the end of the video if I do choose to do my essay, well, read my essay to you guys. So the next part of this video, I want it to be dedicated to just my diversity statement. Man, Diversity statement. This was something that I went back and forth with because I feel like a lot of the times when you're drafting a diversity statement, you feel like you gotta have like this trauma dump of like things that you went through in your life. And although many admissions tell you do not trauma dump for their application, it's hard to not feel like it's that way. Because typically, people who come from different socioeconomic backgrounds, racial backgrounds, someone who even being you can be diverse even in taking gap years, going into a different career. That is like a difference. But typically I think of like gender and race when I think about diversity, even though that's not the only thing. I literally heard an admission rep talk about how somebody talked about juggling and how they were like a professional juggler. Things that are interesting. Like, what can you bring from just like this interesting knowledge about you? But when I was doing the diversity statement, like I said, I had this vision and thought of like, well, what did I go through? What is diverse about me? What exactly can I tell the admissions that's going to be like, oh girl, I see you. And I really had to sit down and think, because sometimes people just opt out of doing a diversity statement. In my second cycle, I decided not to do it because I felt like, no, I don't got nothing diverse about me, but everybody has something diverse about them because everybody is different. It can be from you binge watching shows and just the joy that it brings you versus like, oh, I like to do yoga in the park. I do yoga with people. I teach yoga. I teach dance classes. I'm a lifeguard. I teach my siblings how to swim. I teach them to do X, Y, and Z. There's so much that can lend to you being a diverse person. But for my essay, I chose to talk about, as you guys, well, I don't know if you guys, but I talked about me, my race, and my gender, and how they were intersecting with one another. To combine that together is intersectionality. Kimberly Crenshaw coined the term, and she just talks about the difficulties that women of color, well, black women in specific, experience because of the fact of having these multiple identities that intersect, and how it's hard to navigate them and being able to express these difficulties that you may come across or you may face when dealing with just like your race and your gender. Also, okay, and I guess a tidbit for somebody watching this and wants to know exactly how possibly to get started with a diversity statement, I would say to brainstorm first. Always brainstorm. I think that can be your basis of your essay and how you want that. Write down some things you may see as like quirky about yourself or weird, or just like, I wonder, do anybody else do that? Like, just a fun list of different things that you do or that you like, and pick something off that list and talk about it. What does this lend to you? And that's what my basis of like my race and my gender, I talk a lot about the responsibilities that I had being an older sibling. Also, that's another thing, being an older sibling, a first generation student, that's something really big. But I'm getting off track again. Anyway, I talked about me being a black woman and America, and just like this extra pressure to be overly great. Always having to prove yourself because people don't see the value in you or see inferiority of you. And so, yeah. So I talked about that in the first paragraph and just my experience. Also, I spoke about how these different experiences that I have, I don't want to keep saying experience, these different things that I have experienced in my life, how they have affected me as a person today, and how these experiences will contribute to me being a successful law student. And I definitely want to read my diversity statement up here. I feel like, why not? So you guys can see an example. I may have it like up here when I start to read, but that is like my personal journey, my personal story towards just the writing the essays in general. I hope this video was very helpful to you. Fingers crossed. Again, if I did not answer something or you wish you would have knew a little bit more, leave them down in the comments, or you can email me. I have had people email me. Thank you guys to see that you guys are actually listening and on my videos and just still supporting. But no further ado, I'm going to read my personal statement and my diversity statement so you guys can hear what statements got me into law school. So up next is this. Okay, I should note as well that I wrote different endings for different schools. So I'm going to read specifically the essay I submitted for Quinnipiac Law. And this right here I'm about to read is my personal statement, okay? So bear with me. Okay, so this is a quick intermission. The video that I shot, the essay, my personal statement that I have read on camera is not the correct essay. At first I was like, what the heck? How did I start reading this one? It must have been like an old draft. But Quinnipiac Law in specific asks for a maximum of 750 words. And that lends to when I was saying I had different versions for different schools. So I'm going to read the personal statement right now that I submitted to Quinnipiac Law. And then we will go back into like the diversity statement that actually was read correctly. So let's get started. At the age of 11, on a road trip to Georgia, I witnessed my father's arrest. The cops pulled us over and asked my father to exit the vehicle. He was handcuffed and pressed against our car. Confused about why he was being handcuffed, terror crept in. The raised voices between my father and the police officer signaled something was wrong. I was advised to leave the car and sit on the side of the road. As I sat on the road, I watched them rip my father's car apart, looking for something that they suspected to be there. My father was now pressed on the ground. Echoes of my screams spread across the horizon as my father tried to soothe me while being apprehended. After their search, they found marijuana in the vehicle, and he was quickly hoisted inside the police car. This was my first time I saw who the world considered a criminal. He had violated the law and therefore deserved the consequences that followed. According to the law and society, it was valid to deem him unredeemable. While he committed a crime, I cannot commit to the idea that he was unredeemable. Before this experience, I clung to the media's perception that people in prison deserved unruly punishment and lacked the capacity of redemption. My father's arrest challenged my idea of a criminal. The criminal was now someone I cared about. His arrest opened my perspective to the opposite viewpoint. Starting college, I knew I had a strong interest in being a criminal justice attorney. To learn more, I decided to take some criminal justice courses, women in the criminal justice system, and sexual and domestic violence. These classes influenced my interest in focusing on women's role in law, opening my eyes to another sector within the criminal justice system that needed help. I learned that in this sector of the law, many cases of assault did not make it to court, and when cases were brought to trial, many of the victims were left dissatisfied. My domestic violence class educated me on what constituted sexual assault and provided me with the helpful prevention tactics along with crucial knowledge when interacting with different victims. After these courses, I decided to focus my thesis on sexual assault of men in prison. In my thesis, I was informed of the normalcy of prison rape and the inhumane living conditions of prisoners. When reports of assault are brought to attention, most prisoners are not tested for sexually transmitted diseases, which leaves diseases to spread rampant. I learned of the attempts to minimize such assaults by introducing policies such as the Prison Elimination Act, but it did not have the intended effect expected. The enforcement of such a law was determined on a state level rather than a national level, which made the act easily ignored. The new acquired information showed me that it was not much justice for both genders, Both lacked sufficient help and needed more done in order to decrease such crimes. My research showed me that policy could be helpful to get justice for these crimes, but such policy needed to be widespread in order for them to actually work. Effective policy reform is the best answer to combat such violent crimes. Thus, my lived experience and academic interests informed my decision to pursue law school. Beyond my personal passion and policy interests, I also bring my professional skills from my years of work experience at blank. This experience has provided me with the ability to effectively research and analyze legal documents when providing decisions on paying out beneficiaries' claims. My experience in a professional environment has shown me the racial and economic discrepancies that appear in obtaining annuities and contributes to my continuing interest in pursuing law. My purpose for pursuing a Juris Doctor stems from my desire to fix the many discrepancies that we hold in our systems. I would like to learn about the law and find out the impact of law on policy, not only in the realm of sexual assault, but taking a closer look at other systems that policy could affect. Injustice in one place is injustice everywhere. My goal in becoming a lawyer is more than solving the world's problems, but to make a true impact in people's lives. The horrific incident that I experienced at the age of 11 sparked the mind of a young woman who plans to change the nation. Okay, that is my personal statement, and now let's get back into the video so you can hear my diversity statement. To be a black woman is to be courageous. I, as a black woman, experience my life differently from both women and black men. My experience is different from others solely based on my upbringing. I'm the firstborn and only daughter of my mother. Being an older sibling in a black family who has not experienced the glory of graduating, I must be a leader and an example to my younger siblings. I must excel at school because no one else in my family has been able to achieve the goal. I must play the motherly role, babysitter, and teacher to my younger siblings so that they can excel just as I have. Being a young black woman in America, I have been taught that I must overachieve in order to be recognized. I must stay in the place that fits me best, never being able to step out of line because of the stigmas that surround me. Every day I fight not to be in a box of people's expectations, but to show that I am more than what people perceive me to be. Being black, I am told that because opportunities do not come as easily compared to others, that I must not make big mistakes. One big mistake can be the big pivotal change in my life. Being a black woman, I have to deal with the hardships that come along with my race and gender. When my two intersecting identities come into conflict, I'm forced to choose between the two. To combat these ongoing conflicts, I have become strategic with my ways of problem solving and learning how to be able to argue my points that deal with both of my identities simultaneously so that I'm not excluding a part of myself. My upbringing has provided me with the perspective to be a leader and to be able to effectively communicate with others. The many stigmas that surround me have pushed me to always do my best and to never let the hardships I may encounter defeat me. The encouragement to be responsible and organized has taught me how to be a valuable resource to others. Even with the many hats I wear, I am unable to complain because these are the very things that contribute to my identity. The very tasks that were listed as requirements for me to become became the very things that I am proud of. These qualities I acquired have given me the ability to find my place in the world. When I walk into a room, I make sure my presence is felt. In the field of law, it's a requirement to be a leader and to be able to fight for your clients. With my consistent teachings of being a strong black woman, I have acquired the skills necessary for a position of this stature. So you guys, that was a lot. I hope you guys enjoyed the read and the example. How about you guys? Do you have any tips for anybody who may be trying to draft a personal statement that can definitely help them during this process? Because if we can give help community, then we should definitely get it so that we can have just more people become attorneys, minorities, people from different backgrounds who have experienced different things. If this is something you want to do, you can do it. I hope my tips that I have given has been very helpful. And I'm just excited to make these videos, you guys. more content should be coming. As you know, my classes start actually in 2 weeks from now, so I'm going to have what's in my backpack and class reveal in the next video. So you guys just stay tuned, keep watching, and thank you for watching my video.